Super great.
Okay. They did. The Wi-Fi here, I mean, that they connect.
All right, well, let's get started then. So let's get started then. Good morning, still. We have 3 plenary speakers in this so-called mini plenary session. I don't know what the mini refers to, certainly not to the speakers, on our panel. Big names on our panel here, and I'll start by very briefly introducing Anna Sebi, who really does not need any introduction in this context. But nevertheless, she's a professor at Plenary University in France and director of Factor Research Unit, a political geographer, social geographer who analyzes borders and has worked extensively on border art and border representations. Co-founder of the collective and the Atlas of Border. She is the author of What is the Border Today? And co-editor of Vulgarities, The Politics of Contemporary Mobile Borders, and most recently has co-authored this wonderful book together with Rachel Conrad, Border Culture Theory, Imagination, and Geopolitics. And I'm very much looking forward to your presentation within this plenary session on border representations. Anna, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Astrid. Thank you, everybody. I hope, it should work better like this. Thank you. First start thanking the organizers, the ABS, David in particular, who's not really here to listen, but provides cross walls, because it's a little bit like coming back home. There's been a few very interesting border conferences in Israel, and the ABS is really like family today. And I'm proud to be part of this mini plenary session. I know I'm mini, so it works pretty well for planes and for mini plenaries. My talk is going to be about border poiesis, the ideological challenges of geopolitical imaginaries revealed by border art. My way of working on borders is tridimensional. I usually say everybody that I cannot distinguish the institutional dimension of the border from the practical dimension of the border and the representational dimension of the border. It's the 3 of them and the 3 interacting with one another. For me, the border is not just one type of discontinuity, but indeed one that is multidimensional, relational, and questions space in very many manners. As you know, I've been working on border art for a long time, and what I've put at the core of this presentation is the notion of imaginaries. Imaginaries going beyond images. Imaginaries meaning, which is what I said in the previous session, a word that is not that much used in English, but because usually the word that is used in English is imagination, but the word that is usually in the common language used as a counterpart to the real. But what I'm going to show you today is that imaginaries as an individual and as a social construct are totally part of the real. Is this a greater or is this a wall? Mona Zoom called this work Greater Divide, and I think it's a great introduction in border art to what I'm going to try to convey to you. Border imaginaries is also about how we share or not values and representations. For in this case, the idea, we remember when Donald Trump wanted to make America great again and started showing prototypes of the wall at the border. And it was challenged by an artist saying that he was himself being an artist because those prototypes look so much like border art. So I will try to build on this through a very interesting and intriguing notion, that is the notion of poiesis. Comes from Aristotle, opposed to practice, and it means a lot of things. It means, and it has been very much used by Henri Lefebvre in his work on the production of space. So it means the action of doing, it means the action of creating, and the notion of producing. And he says, basically, the idea behind this word is that you cannot do one without the other. You cannot create without producing something. You cannot do without creating and producing. So you have to be self-conscious of all that you do together. It's a word, it's a substantive, poiesis. It's also a verb, poien, in Greek, meaning making, producing, acting. It is a technique, both a corporal and a discursive technique. There's a very interesting quote that has been used by very many people to work on that notion of poiesis, which comes out of a poem from Friedrich Hölderlin that says that full of merit, yet poetically, man dwells on this earth. And usually, the part of the quote that is most used is the one that, at the end, the man dwells on this earth, poetically. But it's very interesting to question the beginning of the first verse, full of merit, full of work, full of enterprise. It is through work that poetry, imagination, meaning come to being, and this is how we question them. As you know, I love Gloria Anzaldúa, and I've been very inspired by La Mestiza. And there's one verse there that says that cuando vives en la frontera, people walk through you, the wind steals your voice. And I've been very much questioned by this notion of being crossed through, and this has led me to cross a few boundaries with you today, because I'm to do something else than a mere speech. I'm going to cross a few borders and let us think together of what it means to cross a border. That first one that I'm doing here, crossing, is that of the scientific. I drop my label and I'm allowing myself to be a subject, and I'm here crossing one border that is one of the public and the intimate. And I'll go and dressing. Don't worry, I won't go too far. So there are things that you can unload, unpack, and that helps you travel further because you're lighter. I wanted today to discuss all the borders, all the boundaries that I've crossed in my life. I was very inspired by Tara's questioning. I forgot the papers on the desk, so maybe somebody will come and bring them to me. Tara asked 2 days ago to people what was their first memory of a border. We had a very nice discussion on Monday. So I would like to ask you, what is the first memory of a border crossing, of a traversée, or a travesía, something that you cross over? And that will be able to put on a little paper that somebody will help me bring there on the desk. And I forgot to bring them to the room. I'll let you write something on the little papers and then give them to me. We'll make a little packet here and we can share those later. So I remember my first border crossing. It's not actually a border crossing. My first border crossing, I think, is a story of border crossings, because I come from a family that had been crossing a lot of borders before I was born. I was born and raised in Paris. But my grandparents, sorry? Papers, I think, they're on the desk. There's a set of white papers and somebody will get them for me, but it doesn't matter if they get at the end. So, memories of bordering, memories of crossings. You can cross borders without ever crossed them, having crossed them yourself. Basically, I think I didn't begin border studies. Didn't begin my career studying border studies. I did very mainstream economic geography. But as I was saying, I grew up in a family where border crossing was the basis. They had, I couldn't tell how many borders they'd crossed, but it was just about crossing borders, speaking 6 languages, my grandparents, and coming from places, Lviv, Lvov, Lemberg, places that had very many names, and from people and places that changed nationalities when states decided, but people did not even move. I remember crossing recently a lot of borders, the borders of disciplines. We say they're hard to cross. And I'm a self-taught art historian while I was brought up in geography and history. But they may not be that hard to cross. We have to think of our very intimate borders, the limits that we cross when we leave our house. One of the first border crossings that I remember is that I was in Italy with my family, and I was 12 and a very, very, very quiet teenager. That day I decided to get away and get my time. 3 hours of freedom in Italy. Because it was Italy, it was just Ventimiglia, the other side of the border. They were crazy looking for me, and I came back very happy. I only had maybe 1,000 lira in my pocket, could buy myself an ice cream and some time of freedom on the other side of the border. I can remember other border crossings. I can remember the border crossings of giving a hand to people who are homeless and don't have a border around them. And that came back very strongly during COVID. I have been helping people on the street during my student time. And these boundaries of the home that we feel so secure were just not there for many people. And the many poor people we were helping were the elderly. And you don't imagine that age also is a border. I have also been working recently on and feeling the crossing of the borders of the law, because in France it has become more and more illegal to help an illegalized person. And when the borders of the policy making and the borders of morality and ethics contradict in such a point that people who help others are put to prison, jailed, what you do, which side you want to be on. This has led me to cross the border of being a simple citizen to be going to court and defend myself and finding that justice sometimes can help, and that the police alternatively is on the good and the bad side. What kind of borders and boundaries can you cross in a life? That of giving life, that of feeling that you have another life in your womb, that is a different human being, and yet that for some incredible, magical reason you hold within you until you live free to live his or her life. I have had the happiness and sadness and violent moments of also crossing what it means to be the victim of sexual violence. I have lived historically different borders. I remember running to Germany the day the wall fell down, just to be there and to give it a big, big knock. And having this East German guy there standing on the wall, handing me a little piece of concrete with his phone number. Not valid anymore, but I still have it. Once somebody cleaning the house wanted to throw it away. And I said, no, this is the Berlin Wall in my house. But this crossing was very, very ephemeral in a way. Because now we're all working on border walling again. I can remember, and one of my first meetings actually with the border was, as a kid, was being here in Israel and going to Hebron without knowing what Hebron was, and just having us ourselves taking a picture as kids in the Jeep and saying, wow, that's cool. And then what I've made of it now, border thinking and border crossing is also a question of time. I'm sure there are many, many more of those. And I am very pleased today to be able to explore more and more border crossings, the crossings of gender definitions and border and gender fluidity, the crossings of the infraworld and the magical and what it has to bring us, and to opening up to different kinds of relationship with the world. One of the first border crossings for us all is that of the day we come to life, and apparently last one is the day we will die. What we make of that for border studies. There were maybe a lot of more border crossings that we could have brought together. It is a bit, it is easy to do this in a room where we have shelter. And I am very conscious that this performance is that of a privileged person who can cross the borders. And I would really like to dedicate it to the people who are not allowed to cross borders and who died in greatest number doing so. But what I would like to end the talk with is with that thought and maybe questioning that we can probably all share about the fact that our identity is not made of the territory we are supposed to live in, or made of the substance of the territory we have grown on, but made of all the border crossings that our life has piled and that we are today trying to make the best of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Where should we put these little papers?
And bring the papers, all the papers. And I could take some time to read some of them, but yeah. Bring them to the beginning, the forefront. Maybe I'll do an exhibition of the little papers. Thank you. We could do a collection of border crossings.
Any kind of problem.
Thank you very much. Everyone. Crossing the border, gaining access to higher education, which is born for most members of my nuclear family. Growing up and looking at the Iron Curtain and realizing that it was a privilege to be able to cross it. Not the first, but the hardest, helping my father to fight cancer. From daughter, I crossed the border out of myself. My words were no longer mine, but his. When I went from Portugal to Spain with my parents and grandparents by car. That was possible, but I had to wait a long time at the border. I crossed my India-Bhutan border with my family as a child to have a family picnic. It was joyous, exciting border crossing for me into the land of happiness. My mother died, I became alone, adult, and then changed. Not so easy, as you mentioned, so many kinds of borders. Now, I'm puzzled, thinking about different possibilities of boundaries to be crossed. Would you give me more time, please, and let's discuss together? Sure. For the moment, 4 members in my nuclear family born on 3 continents. Border crossing. I'll just read that one. As a child, I lived in a house that was attached to the neighbor's house. When we moved in at age 2, 3 more or less, the hedges dividing the land hadn't grown yet. I remember crossing the small wall, spending the gardens back and forth, thus enlarging my home space. We've experienced a lot of that, expanding and closing of the borders. I can't read them all, but I'll post them so that we can share them, and I invite you to give me more little papers. And I hope, well, that was kind of inspiring. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I love those moments. Conferences when we do not only talk about how we should do research, but we also enact border thinking and enact crossing borders. I'm not quite sure how we go about it. You know, should we do a discussion right now? Maybe so, because I'm afraid that our second speaker is not here.
You keep waiting for 20 minutes online.
Okay, all right, so we should be there somewhere, I don't know. So David, should we do the second presentation and then?
You're the chair.
Yeah, I am the chair, okay, all right. Well, in that case, maybe we should take, questions. Because I assume that we have 3 different presentations, so if you don't mind, and we still, keep looking for a stand, I'll open the floor to questions. Yes, please go ahead. Thank you.
I was profoundly moved by the perspective that you offered. And taking it a little bit more abstractly, philosophically, what you led me to understand is that life is a passage. And borders are defined by, borders define that passage. An easy life is one that we encounter few borders. Whether easy makes it better is another question. A harder life is when you're facing many, many borders. And that creates a great deal of insight, and a great deal of illuminates things for me quite brilliantly. So I wonder if you could comment on that.
I don't know if there are lives that do not cross borders or that have less borders. I'm just thinking there are lives that the easier lives are the lives where people don't think about the borders they're crossing, but we're all crossing borders. And the easy lives are also the lives where people wall themselves within borders so that they don't have to cross them. That would be my answer. The easier lives, or the pretendingly easier lives.
Any other questions, remarks? Yes.
Thank you for a fascinating presentation. I have 2 questions. One is that why is it that when you are at a border, you get this urge to cross it? And the second is that I was reading a book on romanticism, which is very fascinating. That if you are romantic, if you are sedentary, it's easier to leave out where the boundary is, and as where, how, and where you cross it. But if your socio-spatial consciousness is permeated by romanticism, then how do we work it out? How do we figure it out?
Okay, thank you for great questions. This is the thing is this the human being for me, and I'm not a philosopher, and I don't want to pretend to answer questions that are very complex, but it's just my take. Is that the simplest way is to wall ourselves into very neat borders and think that it's very comfortable there within. But there is always a little rebel part of our mind that wants to know what is on the other side. This is what happens on the border. And it looks very much the same, but then so why is it different? Why is there a border? I think the interesting thing about borders is the question why? Why are there? I mean, it's how, but also why, how and why. So you want to know. It's also a limit of knowledge. So this is for the first part. And for the second part, it looks complex, but I think the answer is more simple because people don't wander everywhere. They have very they have milestones on their itineraries, and they know. It is also the notion of a limit of knowledge and not knowledge. They know where to go. They know where the water is. They know where they can go through in which season, and they will obviously know when they're out of their way and if they have to get out of their way. So I think this is your two questions probably link very much one with another. Thank you very much.
Excellent presentation. My question is, often we say borders are orders. Why to cross borders? Because if we know our limits, if we feel safe about certain things, I think creating certain borders is actually more helpful. It will bring more stability, peace, security, because borders are orders. The other, like Hindu mythology also, which talks about circles that we all are in. And the only way to break this circle is to leave all the borders of your emotions. So all these are worldly borders. So you have to really get out of, and the Hindu mythology says, life after life. And the last life, when you attain the real, with God in heaven, is the only life when you leave all the waters, including the worldly waters. So these are two questions. What are your take on this really famous phrase, waters are orders? And second, how do you look at this philosophy that you cannot attain peace until you leave all the waters?
Well, borders are othering more than others. This is where you have to say the border imposes its ontology on yourself. So you have to decide whether you belong or you don't belong, and who you are according to who is the other. I really like Jean Gottman's take on borders from that perspective. He opposes security and the fact that borders are here to secure our environment, and we don't want anybody to come inside. And so we build on an iconography that we share and that we won't share with the others because they won't understand. So nobody comes inside, but we want more resources. So we want to go outside, we want access, we want opportunity. So it's a big world of everybody wanting to move out of the boundary, but not wanting anybody to come in. There's a French humorist who said that there are too many strangers in this world. And it's a bit the problem with borders.
Okay, well, thank you very much once again.
Thank you for your questions. Border crossings of all kinds, the weirdest and the simplest and the oldest and the newest and the futures. The ones you want to cross for the future, like going to Mars or whatever, you can on the white papers and we'll post them. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, and I hope we can come back to this. We will change the order of the next presentations. And we will continue with Victor Gourmet, who is an expert in water disputes and geopolitics. He is a photographer and geographer with experience of more than 30 years of his own cartographic studio and map store, which publish maps for tourism, magazines, films, packages, I've seen city maps, world maps, and globes. And we're very much looking forward to your presentation on the representations of boundaries on maps in cartographers' perspective. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Can I hold the microphone?
Yeah, I guess, sorry. Where's the,
Sorry. No, after 12 o'clock is noon. My name is Victor Bogard and I'm a photographer. For the last 40 years, I'm doing maps, a lot of maps, all around the world. So when you see a map, when you buy a map in a bookshop, a world map or a continent map or special maps. What is real the cartographer wanted to say in this map? There is no two maps similar to each other. Even world map, if you see a world map, there is no world map, world map saying if they done by two different cartographers. So people ask me about what is the reason for that map, because this map show different things and different scales and different information. So for my knowledge and my experience, I want to tell some, one moment,
Victor, אם אתה רוצה שגם אותך בכל המקור, אז תדבר לנו.
אוקיי. When cartographer is asked to draw a border map between countries, for example, the map of the state of Israel, the question is, who is paying for that map? Who is older? Because in different maps, there is different ideas behind it. If you do a map for the government, for example, the government of Israel, there is no need to draw the green line on the maps of the official maps of Israel. If you know the green line is the green line was drawn on the Israeli map during the armistice line, and Israel doesn't want that there will be now an official line. When Israel built the fence, so the fence is going along the green line, but not exactly on the same line because of the settlements already been there and some other problems. So if you are working for the government and the sovereign of Israel or other sovereign of each country, you're obligated to do the maps according to the law. You cannot do maps as you want. If you are doing a map for a university or for a newspaper, for example, and they have an opinion how to do what to show on the map. If the map is political, if you want to see to show something special or not in the other special, so you have to calculate and you have to fulfill the customer satisfaction. So there is another option. If you are independent cartographer like me. I'm doing map for myself and to sell in the shops and bookshops. Map of Israel, for example, like this map. So I'm doing the map as my knowledge and my political opinion. If I'm from the left wing of the political approach, I'm doing maps that satisfies the right wing political. If I'm from the left wing, so I will do the opposite. I will do the Gaza Strip and the occupation territories and the Golan belongs to Syria or something like that. So it depends who is order the work from the cartographer. The cartographer has to fulfill and to satisfy the diverse requirements. So I had the experience to work for international companies. For example, I was working for National Geography and I built the globes for them. During I was working in Germany 20 years ago, and in the scale of globe, which is about 50 or 60 million, you cannot put all the borders exactly. But in case you have large countries like Egypt and Sudan, and draw a border between the countries, there is some dispute line that you have to conclude in your work, and you have to satisfy the both sides. Because if National Geographic want to sell globes all over the world, and somebody from Sudan and Egypt is not good example because not so many people buying globes there, but in other countries like India and Pakistan or China, Hong Kong. So you have to know who is paying for you and what their requirements and what is your opinion. For example, I a little bit go beside my presentation because I think it's much more important. And for example, how to draw Taiwan in the world map. Is it belongs to China or is it independent? So you have to put another color of the country, and if you do that, does the Chinese people will buy the map, the globe or not? So cartographer has a lot of problems, and he has also his opinion how the maps must be, and in which scale he drew the maps and the lines and borders. And so I want to show, for example, a few maps that show we start in Israel because we are here. For example, on the left side, you see the green line. This is the green line, okay, which was the borders between before 1967. Israel occupied Judea and Samaria, the West Bank, after the 67, and conquest also the Golan Heights. So in this map, I connect all these maps in the Google, and you see that in Golan, for example, you can see the border between Israel, the Golan and the Syria. You see the green line, which was the borders going to 1923, after the British dropped the lines. And so this is a new map which published in Google for official map of one company. The other one, for example, you see there was very clear the West Bank and the Golan Heights and Gaza Strip. Okay? So, for example, in my maps, this is a map I did. I put all the lines, all the information. So when the right wing of the people in Israel buying the map, they ask me always, there is the green line. If there is, I'm not buying the map. There is a lot of population which buying a map for the school. So I put the green line because it's fact. And as a cartographer, I'm doing the real fact, the real information on the maps. And everyone can do with that what he wants. If you want to say, oh, there is a green line, I'm not buying this map, okay, it's your problem. But this is the real. But along the green line, there is also the fence. If you did yesterday tour, did you see the fence near Meitar? And no, you didn't bring there. Did they see?
No, Mahal.
Tomorrow. Okay, so tomorrow you see the fence between Israel and occupied territories. Okay, and there is also, according to Oslo Agreement between Israel and the Palestinian Authority in 1994, it was divided to A, B, and C regions, which shows like an island in the area where the Jewish people live and the Palestinian people live, and where is the corridors, roads for transportation between different areas. So cartographer, when he makes a map, he has a problem. What he's doing, and he has to sell the maps if he is independent. Like I own a private cartography studio, and I'm selling 350 shops around Israel and around the world. Everybody says that it contains Green Line and the Gaza Strip. How do you call the Gaza Strip? Do you call it Palestinian Authority? Do you call it Palestine? Do you call it Israel? Because people who live in the Gaza Strip, I have a lot of friends lived in Gaza Strip before the withdrawal, and they said, can you put the settlements where I was lived before? I said, no, because this is the fact right now, so I cannot do that. This is the fact. But they said, okay, we will order 1,000 maps of the Gaza Strip with all settlements. So please do it. I said, no, sorry. Even I lose a lot of work, I'm not doing that. If you want, I have all maps, I can copy the all maps, but I'm not doing that right now, like to change the facts. Okay? So, I met the president of National Geographic when I was working in Germany. After the year of 2000, when Europe became a union, National Geographic wanted to move all the production to Europe. So they found a company in Germany which named Columbus Verlag, Columbus Gloss, in South Germany, and they established a joint venture company which named Capital Direct, and they started to print maps and gloves in Europe instead of shipping for a long way from the. Hello. So they set up the cartographer. I don't want to say the best cartographer in the world, but I say they set up the cartographer who knows a lot about cartography with a lot of experience. So, the president of National Geographic met me and asked me one question about borders. What is the most eastern place on the world? It is also the most western. Somebody knows the answer? Where is the most eastern point of the world, which is also the most western? Okay, so yes, please.
I want to try the Bering Strait.
Bering Strait?
Yeah.
It's not correct, but on the way. Okay, there is the international dateline. The international dateline, which is 180, was in the beginning one straight line, okay, 180 east and west. But you know, there are some countries lived on the dateline, like Kiribati. Kiribati is a very wide country with 1,600 islands. So it's not possible that people, that the students wake up in one time, and the other island of the same country will wake up thereafter and go together to school in different times. So the international dateline always changed. So in 1999, it was a decision by the International Geographical Names, which is they are sitting in Geneva under the UN, and they decided to change the international dateline. So the answer for the question is Samoa. Samoa. There is two Samoa. There is American Samoa, and there is the Western Samoa. So the line crossed Samoa to two different states. So the American Samoa belongs to US, and Samoa is an independent country. So the answer is Samoa. So I got the work because I knew that. Yeah, they asked hundreds of people about it, but nobody really what is the answer. So it's a border. It's an international dateline border, because from that line to the west, they start, you know, the time zone. And 1 meter eastern is totally 12 hours later. So it's very, somebody have been in Samoa? So I was there, I went to see. I was there, like if you were in Greenwich. Somebody was in Greenwich, in the Greenwich line. Yeah. So you were there, and there is you are in the east and the west, the zero west. So this is an interesting border. So when I draw maps, I always calculate what is my client wants to get from me. If, for example, a doctor wants to write a book and needs a maps, so he called cartographer. I was cartographer of Tel Aviv University for some years. Professor David Newman was my teacher 4 years ago when we wrote together the Atlas of Regional Councils of Israel. And so just a few minutes ago, I saw the book of Professor Gilon Dier. He wrote about the boundaries of Israel. And I immediately looked at the maps. Who did the maps for him? So he took the maps from the old books. So some of the maps are not clear, but they are copy. Asking why you didn't ask for me, he knows me, to draw the maps, it saves money. So if you don't want to pay money, you say. But the result is not good, because when you copy map from other cartographer, which is knowledge, not very well known, let's say he doesn't really know the facts and the situation and what is on this place. I've been 104 countries, visit some of them by National Geographic, asked me to go there and to see to meet all the head of the survey of the countries. I was in China, and I speak several languages, but to speak with those people. But always you see what is the real fact, because when you copy a map and you put in your book a map, you don't know if the map is real, is correct, is not correct. Maybe the cartographer copied from another cartographer and another cartographer from the east. There is a lot of mistakes in maps. The survey of Israel, for example, they published a map of the Middle East. And Professor Newman knows that I was assistant of Professor Moshe Power, if you know his name, Professor Moshe Bauer was the head of geography in Tel Aviv University and the Duke. And I was interested in him for 7 years. And he brought me to the survey of Israel after I finished my study and said, I want Avigdor will work here as a cartographer. So the head of the survey said, no, we don't need, we have already cartographers here. Okay, so they published a map of the Middle East. Sorry, I didn't bring it here, but it was so many mistakes inside. And they put all the airfields on the sea because the cartographer doesn't know, or the printing was not so good. So all the film was moved 4 millimeter left. And you know, the black film, when you print the map, it's called a process, CMYK printing, if somebody knows about printing. So all the black film was moved 4 millimeter to the left, and all the airfield was on the sea. So sometimes there is no place to draw special symbols on the map because there is the names and then the roads and everything, the point. But when you have enough space, you should control, and the government print such a mess. So I wrote them a letter, and they didn't fix it till yet for the last 20 years. Never mind. So when a cartographer have to do a map, you have to ask him, what is your opinion? What is your political opinion? Even if you are in Mongolia or in Africa or somewhere else, everybody has their opinion. So National Geography changed a lot of maps, a lot of boundaries, not only the Israeli boundaries, because of me, because I said, if you want me to work for you, you should agree to my knowledge. I tell some small story. When I was working in Germany, in Columbus, and they are publishing gloves, also then gloves and also National Geographic gloves. One day came an Arabic guy from Syria. He was a big buyer of gloves for many years from this company in Germany. And the main office was in Damascus. And I was sitting in my office in Germany, and the manager said, I would like to introduce you my old buyer. He's buying for $1 million gloves every year, and he distributed the gloves in all the Arab world. Okay? I said, okay, nice to meet you. And then he said, I want to put Palestine, not Israel, on the map, because I'm selling this in Syria, in Lebanon, in Iraq, in Iran, everywhere, in Saudi Arabia. So he said, okay, let's meet my cartographer. And we were sitting together. I said, nice to meet you. My name is Avigdor. He said, Avigdor? I know Avigdor Lieberman. I said, no, I'm not Avigdor Lieberman. Where are you from? He asked me. I said, I'm from Israel. Oh, sorry. So we have to remove the name of Israel from all the globes he's going to buy and put Palestine. The German manager of the globes, Columbus said, I will ask if Avigdor is agree, I will do it. But if not, sorry, I can't do it. So from that time, he went away, and the company lost some millions of dollars because of me. And that's the real story, because it happened. And I invited the president of National Geographic when I was working, his name was Bill Storer, and I invited him to come to Israel to see the Golan Heights and the occupied territories. And his son was archaeological. So he joined a group to dig in dam, kibbutz dam in the north of Israel, Kibbutz Dan is exactly in the border between the Israel before the 67 and after the occupied territories. So his son came to Israel to work with this group, and I took him for a tour. I said, you see, my cousin living in Alexandra, and the land is free, you can go. So tell your father to change the maps of National Geography. And you can do occupied territories, but don't draw the maps like it belongs to Syria. Okay, so when people see and realize that it's different when they hear from the news, and so they change their mind. Thank you very much. Any questions?
I have a question.
Thank you.
The light on?
Sorry? Live on? I'm not in charge of the live, but yes.
Yes.
There is many maps in the presentation, but I think.
Can I make a question?
Yes, please.
Okay. Usually, maps have been prepared and published by the government agencies, especially in the third world countries. However, these days, private sector mapping companies also prepare the political maps, relief maps, and other maps. In this context, may I know what are the elements of cartography to prepare an exact and actual map that represents and that verifies ground to map? This is my one query. The second query is, how could be depicted and represented on the map the blue border line between Israel and Lebanon? Thank you.
I will start from the second question. The blue line between Israel and Lebanon is quite simple because in 1923, it was drawn the line from the sea to the east till the meeting point of the Dan River. And so the problems with Lebanon now is only if you read about Sha'ab farms. Sha'ab farms is 7 farms, which was built near Dove Mountain, and left there for many years. And when in 1967, Israel conquered this area, and the problem between Israel and Lebanon now is only about these farms. It can be solved very easily because when Israel agreed with Egypt about the Taba in the hill not far from here, a few kilometers from here. So I think it's something beyond the ability to do agreement. It's something else. It's political. It's not because of free. Because if Lebanon, I think it's my opinion. If Lebanon said, okay, we will do a peace agreement with you, with Israel, just give us the Shaba farms area. No problem. I think it will be easy because for the future, for the development of the area, like we agreed a few months ago about the maritime line, about the gas fields in the Mediterranean Sea. So it was the news afraid us, oh, it will be a big war because the Hezbollah will shoot about the gas fields in the sea. They have also gas fields, and this is political because Hezbollah is controlling Lebanon, not the real government. For the first question. There is no accurate map at all, because also it depends the scale, okay, the scale of the map. When you're doing the map of 1 to 1,000, even that, if you give a work to two different cartographers, they will do different maps, because the knowledge, the idea, the accuracy, the fact what there is before. So each cartographer will do different map. So in my opinion, there is no real accurate map. Accurate map is orthophoto. When you do orthophoto, and on the orthophoto you draw lines. I did the map of the old city of Jerusalem. Okay, if you go to Jerusalem, in the Jaffa Gate, you will see on the left wall a map near the tourist information, and it was a big court, court case. It was a big court case. My cousin, my friend, was working for the security services for the Israeli Shabak. For many years, he was in charge of the security of the old city of Jerusalem. His name, Ami Meitar, is famous now. And he asked me 60 years ago to draw a map, an accurate map of the old city of Jerusalem. And I did it. I went with him to each street, each house, because he knows very well, for many years he was in charge of the area. And we drew the accurate map as much as possible. And another company, his name Blusen Maps, from the north of Israel, they copied the map. And it was a big court case in the second level, before the Supreme Court. And the judge said, yes, he can do a map and copy a map according to a copy from the computer. And so it's next week it will be one big conference of Cartography Society in Israel. I will be there and show with the professor who was advisor to the court. So there is no accurate map, and every cartographer doing a different map. Okay, so that's what I can ask you. Any question more, please? Yes, please.
You said your PowerPoint has other pictures and maps. Can we see them?
Sorry. Okay, so on the left, you can see, the Gaza Strip, and now you see the Golan Heights on the left side. This in the right side is Google Map, which shows the borders, but they stop, you see, near the Lake of Galilee, they stop the line. I don't know why. This is my mess. You can see it outside. I'm selling maps of Israel and for example, Azerbaijan and Armenia is a big dispute about Nakhchivan and Nagorno-Karabakh. I want them to take to see in my eyes exactly what is going on there, what is there. And 2 weeks ago, they started again the fight, and a lot of people died. It's very easy if you can. This is Azerbaijan, this is Nakhchivan, which is Azer people live there, and this is Nagorno-Karabakh, which is Armenian people live there. So if they change the place of each population, they can solve the place, but nobody wants to leave their home and change. And what I want to show here is a different cartographer. You see, here in this cartographer didn't write Nakhchivan, he just wrote Azerbaijan, okay? But it's not real, I mean, it belongs, but when you draw a map, you have to write exactly what is the situation. Georgia. 3 months ago, I married a Georgian woman. She's outside here. And Georgia. In Georgia, as you know, there is a two parts, the north-west is Abkhazia.
Not in English.
Sorry?
Not in English.
Yeah, sorry, because I didn't have enough time to translate, but this is Georgia on the Caucasus, okay? And this is Russia, and this is the Black Sea. So this part is named Abkhazia. It was conquered by the Russians. And this area is named South Ossetia, which is the North Ossetia at the other side of the border between Russia and Georgia. So different cartographers. You see another map? There is no Abkhazia, there is no Ossetia, it's like a free. And my first time when I was traveling in Georgia, I wanted to go to Abkhazia, but I didn't know the facts. So I was talking to the border and said, oh, you cannot come to Abkhazia unless you come from Russia to Abkhazia, you can come, but you cannot go from Abkhazia to enter the Georgia. Everybody knows about Ukraine now, about the situation about Crimea. And you see, this man, the cartographer was very, let's say, accurate. The main reason is, the main point is Ukraine, but he drove very well also Azerbaijan and Georgia. Sorry, he tells in English, he was in English. And Crimea, annexed by Russia in 2014. And also Transnistria. Not very many people know about Transnistria, the border between Moldova and Ukraine, which Russia wants to annex also this area because there are a lot of Russian speaking there. Okay, and this is the situation after the beginning of the war, the Donetsk and Luhansk areas, if you know about the situation in Ukraine now. So I've been there also to check and see myself for this situation. It was before this war. And so cartographer now must go and see in his eyes. When he sees his eyes, he knows better how to draw the maps. Okay, yes, please.
I just want to say two things about Avigdor, and that is one, in the light of everything he's told you about, I can't tell you what the prize will be. And everyone who's wearing a conference t-shirt and who is not Israeli, please come and tell me what is wrong with the map. And just out of interest, Avigdor's brought a collection of his maps. There's a stall outside, and you can see them during the lunchtime.
Okay, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.
We lost contact with Stan Brun. I don't know what happened. We've got his PowerPoint here. If you have, you can run through. He's got 5 slides of very interesting plates with maps on, but we just lost the connection with him. If you want very quickly, we can just run through the slides, and then that's give you 20 minutes for any discussion if you want.
Yes, we can either do that, or we can go outside and take a look at the maps. Maybe. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't see him.
Yeah, he was
there.
I'm in touch with him now, and he said it seems to be
And he can't log back onto it, which is, I was thinking that we should actually close here and go outside, take a look at your maps right outside, right? But if we can pull up the PowerPoint, right?
Just 9 slides.
They're 9 slides, and I would have really, loved to hear more about reading state images of popular culture, because there's always.
Well, I can tell you something from Professor Stan Brun. He was a very eminent American geographer. I've been to his house in Kentucky. He collects plates with maps. Like I collect caricatures. I could have spoken about my caricatures here instead. And he has about 250 to 300 plates with different maps, political maps, social maps. And it's just a fascinating collection.
Yeah, but I really think we can go through the pictures here. Through the slides, because you do see exactly what you were just saying. Countries and regions.
It's not there anymore.
That's a new form of a presentation.
Do your own place.
This is very rare.
That's.
Board's fair.
If anyone wants to comment.
Stamps are also very interesting. Often stamps have very interesting maps, especially when new countries are created. There was, they often have maps, particularly when they have territorial conflict. So that on their stamps, they can show what they believe are the real borders. As I say, they're plates, there's all sort of interesting ways of presenting. And these are the things that have a powerful impact on public culture. Kids, as Victor was saying, in schools, the maps that kids grow up with are very much the maps they think somehow in their mind this is the correct form of the map. And as they go through life, every map they ever see, every change they ever look at, is related back to the original maps they know. But the original maps they know may have come into being 10 years before they were born. So I think a lot of these public cultural displays of borders and maps are of and should be of great interest to us.
All right. Do we have any questions for Sam?
The guy had to get up at 4:30 for nothing.
Yeah, I really feel bad because we didn't see him and then, we changed the order of the presentations because, he wasn't there at the beginning, but I'm happy, that you can see the slides. That was